So we hear this word productivity all the time. Governments are talking about it all the time. Corporations, consultants, and economists love to talk about productivity. We're obsessed by it. Talk about productivity being up, productivity being down, efficiency, etc., worker output, etc. So the question we're really asking is, when you talk about productivity and improvement, who is the productivity benefiting? Who is the improvement benefiting? Because increasingly when we look around the world, we see organizations producing productivity reports, but ignoring the fact that the workers are suffering, the customers are not happy, the supply chains are fragile, there's declining trust, there's environmental waste and pollution issues, and there's a great deal of instability. So you can use productivity as your main measure of success if you want, but we are trying to say that it should not be a catch-all for improvement, and the way you measure productivity certainly needs to be carefully examined. So that's the introduction, Eric, and I'll continue after a few thoughts from you.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, and we talked extensively about this already, even too. But and you know, as you were saying something, I don't know what exactly kind of triggered this thought, but you know, one thing that's completely neglected in kind of the ideation, you know, so to speak, of what productivity is in the first place is just the idea of reliability. So would you need to be as productive if the things that you were producing lasted, you know, longer in some cases? So it, you know, we simplify it to, you know, how much are we really doing per unit of time without, you know, is this the right thing to be doing in this unit of time, and what's actually, you know,
Yeah.
what are we actually delivering out of it? And is it, you know, realizing its societal value, or is it just, you know, filling a gap temporarily because we have nothing better, you know, to
Do
use there?
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this is one of the points, that productivity is not just about keeping people busy, and the more productive you are, that's an indication the more busy you are. Also, it's not about just repeating the same task over and over again if it's not needed to be repeated. So a product that lasts a long time, that doesn't need to be remanufactured or reserviced, takes less effort in the long run, less work, but in fact then there's less effort needed. So your productivity metric could actually decrease because the product is robust.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that'll cascade all the way up the supply chain too. Because I mean, especially with things like, you know, vehicles, you know, you're consuming less steel, less iron ore, you know, less
Yeah.
foundry
Yeah.
time, like, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
all the way up the supply chain.
Yeah. So we've actually become obsessed with measuring the activity, the amount of work being done, instead of the value that's produced from that work. So we measure hours worked, utilization rates, revenue per employee, patients processed in healthcare, number of patients processed, students processed in education.
Yes, so just like they're dressers, like IKEA dressers, you know? They're just processed.
Exactly. They're just going through the system, blump, chunk, 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 like on a conveyor belt, but they're actually people. And so the word processed, right? Like processed cheese, like American cheese, in fact.
Yeah,
we can go down that route in
the we're known for that.
Emails answered, tickets closed, right? Tickets closed is a good one, right? Okay, you've got loads of tickets. How great that you've like closed all these tickets, because our shit system has produced so many tickets in the first place.
Exactly. Exactly. And then we do improvements on closing on the ticketing process itself. All the while, everyone is still pissed off. So they're pissed off, but they're not as pissed off for quite as long.
Pissed off, yeah. So are we actually measuring whether the output, the customer has improved anything. And value is about improving. At
Hmm.
the end of the day, you add value, you improve something.
Hmm.
Has a customer's life been improved has a patient's life been improved
Yep.
by the processing? So trust also comes into it. Has trust improved, or have we had something that's labeled high productivity, but trust has actually decreased? So perhaps more importantly is, are we measuring the real inputs to the calculation, or the right inputs to the calculation of productivity? Because productivity is fundamentally an input of how much effort is being used, how much resources are being used,
Yep.
in order then to measure that against how much output is produced.
Yep.
So typically we've been measuring inputs such as labor hours and the cost of labor, the cost of labor
Mhm.
hours, but also the cost of machinery, the cost of raw materials. These are the inputs. But do we measure other things as inputs, such as the stress on the worker, the turnover rate of workers, such as when occurring by burnout, people just hating their jobs, the
Oh
amount
yeah.
of rework that's done in creating the output. So, what is the rework? What is the hidden costs that are not put into the productivity calculation? The hidden workplace, right? And you can mention a little bit about your experience with the hidden factory, or the hidden workplace that you see every time you step into a factory.
Oh yeah, literally I mean, and it takes, no more than like 10 minutes usually and this is what I like about what I do now is that I can still kind of get involved and get at the ground level with operators and stuff. And one of the last places I was at, I was actually going in, overalls and,
Yeah.
like my normal farmer garb. But I mean, almost universally, what you'll find is people doing really good work. And the example I use is I went to a print shop and, internally just, they didn't realize what they were doing and they couldn't kind of write it down mathematically, but they were doing like modulo, math in their heads to align all these cylinders to get them. And I mean, what it really is and what it boils down to is it's a bunch of people troubleshooting their way through the day. That is what like the hidden factory essentially is, you call them micro stops and things like that, but when you actually go and observe them, what it is, like the
Yeah.
human interaction is a person fighting a piece of equipment, a line, another person, all manner of different things, you
Yeah.
know, while folks, sit up front in their offices and kind of, divine what's
Trouble
going on from a series of reports or, maybe occasionally walk out on the floor and intimidate people. So, I mean,
Troubleshooting their way through the day.
that's
Troubleshoot.
it.
It's like
Yeah.
fighting fires. Like
That's it.
your
Yeah.
day is a firefighting exercise.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the machine breaks down. I'm sitting here troubleshooting it. I run great again for 5 minutes. Machine breaks down again with, issue whatever, shrink wrapper, taper, the things that we take for granted that, the dumb equipment, the shrink wrappers, the tapers, the finishing stuff that nobody ever sees because it's far at the end of the line. But those are the
Yeah.
ones that'll, you have an air leak in a shrink wrapper and the thing's it's dead in the water. Like it's not going to seal, it's not going to move, so it's
Yeah.
those sorts of little things that happen all day long. Because if you have a breakdown on the monument, on the big piece of equipment that everyone measures and tracks,
Yeah.
consistently, they're going to jump on that right away because that's
Yeah.
that is, your flagship piece of equipment. But everything in support of that, it can break down for 6 hours, 12 hours, 72. Someone will get to it eventually.
Yeah.
As long as it's not the big quote unquote productive piece of equipment. It doesn't matter that everything that comes off of that equipment is now sitting there as WIP and can't move forward and then
Yeah.
can't be sold. But yeah, it's
So
troubleshooting your way through the day. That's what it looks
yeah.
like.